Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. Welcome back to another review that is not a review. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we'll get into it in a couple of seconds, but if you want to know my thoughts, my feelings and everything in between on the musical An Officer and a Gentleman, stick around and we'll get into it in 2 whole seconds. So hello, welcome back. If you've never been here before and you don't know what I just meant with the whole review that's not a review thing, basically for each show that I do 2 separate videos. The first one being the last video that I made, which is basically me giving you a little bit of a guide to the show, any sensory content warnings and a little bit about my experience seeing said show. And then this video is the review that's not a review, because basically I just like to talk about shows that I've seen and my thoughts and feelings on them. They're not proper reviews as would be expected from a critic or a professional reviewer. It's just me telling my thoughts, my feelings and other little tidbits about a show that I've seen, and hopefully some people enjoy them. Fingers crossed. But like I said, today we're going to talk about An Officer and Gentleman. Firstly, it's another musical that has been created out of a film. Yeah, I have seen quite a few this year and there is a few to come up over the next couple of years, I'd say, of films that have been turned into musicals, some which have original music, for example Mean Girls, and to a certain point the 101 Dalmatians musical, and then there is musicals like this which are a jukebox musical essentially. This show has music from the 80s, a complete 22 songs, because I counted them, of 80s hits which range from Girls Just Want to Have Fun to Kids in America to St. Elmo's Fire, and even the one that I feel like people will riot if it is not in this show, Love Lift Us Up Where We Belong. Now I have to put it out as a disclaimer in a way, but I have never seen the original film that it is based on, which apparently came out in 1982. I have been told by the people that I sat in front of this week to see the show that it is quite close to the film in question, but I can't comment on that aspect because I've never seen the original film. But a little bit of a backstory, if you will, and a little bit of a plot synopsis. It is all about a group of people who are going through naval officer even training to become an officer in the Navy, obviously, and whilst they are going through this training they are also being out and about, so to speak, in the society around the Naval College, and that is where the main character, if you will, of Zach Mayo meets a local girl by the name of Paula. And there is stuff that goes on between those, but there's also stuff that goes on between his newly found friend and another girl. Then there's also other plot points and you're just like, okay, there's a few too many plots going on here. And I can't keep on top of every one of them, but the basic 2 that you need to keep in your head, well 3 if you will. You got the Zach and Paula relationship, you've got the Sid and Lynette relationship, and you've also kind of got the female Casey Seagar trying to be the first ever female jet plane driver, pilot would have been a better word, but the Casey Seagar story is a lot further down the list. It's basically a two relationships, see what happens kind of story. Neither of them have a happy ending. One has a happier one. There we go. This show, however, has a book that is written by Douglas Day Stewart and Charlene Cooper Cohen. Douglas Day Stewart wrote the original script for the original film, so I suppose that's why it is able to keep most of the plot points, if you will, from the original film. This production is also directed by Nikolai Foster of Curve fame. I feel like I've seen so much of his work recently because this show had its first life back in, let me just check the front, 2018 saw the world premiere of the production. So it's been around for a while. I suppose the fact it has the knowledge for most about the original play, people will go and watch it because they know the story, as is the way with all these musicals that have come out of films that we're going through at the moment. Sticking creatively, I wanted to mention the choreography, which has been done by Joanna Goodwin. It is fun at times, but it also keeps the aspect of like a training scenario through its dancing, in that there is use of such like activities. So at one point the choreography is used to show how they are going through their training. For example, I was gonna say jog, a run with they were carrying things on their back. I'm not describing this well, but it worked really well and that's where I'm going to leave it. Also wanted to mention the set and the costume, which has been designed by Michael Taylor. I enjoyed the set. It was cleverly put together that one set piece could do a multitude of things. Very clever. For the majority of the stage it is quite empty. The scene at the back wall does not change. It is just the inclusion of neon lights which are used to light up specific things. I enjoyed that, and like I said, it did work well with the lighting, which has been designed by Ben Cracknell. Creatively, I quite enjoyed it. There is things that I didn't quite enjoy about the creative side, which I'll get to in a minute after we talk cast. So let's get into that so we can get into that. So cast wise, it was a strong little ensemble group. As previously mentioned when I talked plot, there is kind of two bunches of main characters, two girls and two boys. The two female leads, if you will, who are Paula and Lynette, are played by Georgia Lennon and Sinead Long respectively. I really enjoyed both characters. I preferred Paula by the end to Lynette. I'm not going to go into why, but Act 2 makes me dislike Lynette quite a lot, and it made me slightly angry when the show finished that what happens to Lynette in Act 2 is kind of brushed under the rug. I'm just saying it. It annoyed me. we're not getting into it now. But the two characters played by these beautiful actresses were well portrayed together, and I also really enjoyed their vocals through the entire show. They kind of were something that I haven't heard for a while. It just seemed different. The tones used by both actresses were just really nice, and they blended well together, and I just enjoyed watching both of them do their things. The other two that I said that you have to keep your mind into are the lead character of Zach Mayo, who is played by Luke Baker, and also Sid Worley, who is played by Paul French. I again enjoyed both of those. I also enjoyed the camaraderie between the two of them. They are kind of forced together at the start of the show and developed a very strong bond, and it was really nice to see them portray that bond so well. Another person that I enjoyed watching was Jamal Cain Crawford, who plays the sergeant in charge, Sergeant Foley. I have recently become a teeny bit obsessed with watching Fame on Broadway HD. I don't know where this obsession has come from, but I'm watching it quite often. I'm making use of that subscription at the moment. So to see Jamal on stage as a different role was also kind of fun. I really enjoyed the way that he portrayed that sergeant role, and I also really enjoyed his work alongside the role of Casey, which was played by Olivia Foster Brown. The one thing I do have to say about her though is that she is kind of there as a little supplementary plot point, as previously mentioned, throughout the entire show. And then in Act 2 they gave her own lead song solo moment when she's singing When the Going Gets Tough, and I was like, yay, she has a moment to shine. And then it became like kind of took away, because throughout that song, obviously everyone knows the song quite well, everyone knows most of the songs in this show. However, when it was that song that was happening, and it was like the yay, she's just completed this thing that's been she's been battling for throughout her whole training. She's trying to climb over this I was gonna say climbing wall, it's not, because there's no climby things in there. She's trying to get over this wall. She finally manages it. They sing When the Going Gets Tough, and then the cast kind of encouraged a clap, and I was like, this kind of takes it away from that moment. It made me a little bit sad. I'm sorry. I didn't understand why in the middle of everything we were just like, yeah, let's clap, because it kind of took away from this proud moment for me. Personal preference, but that's how I felt. The final two cast members I kind of wanted to mention are the other female duo, the older female duo if you will, which is Esther and Aunt Bunny, who are played by Melanie Masson and also Wendy Harriet. They aren't in as much, but they are kind of like the second best friend group. They are kind of like the older members of the factory ensemble troupe, and also Esther is Paula's mum, so there is that aspect too. But again, I enjoyed watching those two together. Like moments when they didn't need to be centre of attention, I was kind of watching them because it was just fun to watch the two together. Moving on to my overall thoughts, I enjoyed watching this show. However, there were things that kind of rubbed me slightly the wrong way. One I've already mentioned, with the use of clapping halfway through an act to encourage the audience to join in with that element of the show. Didn't get that. don't know if it's always been part of the show, or because this show is coming to the end of its run on tour, that the cast are just trying to like get people involved. But also some of the song choices and song placement was kind of off. Like certain points there was action going on, there was no singing, it was just people were doing a scene, and then this music would kick off and you were just like, wait a second, they're putting this song in right now? Does this need this? I kind of feel like somebody at the beginning of this process was like, right, we need to put all of these songs into this show because we've got the licensing for it. But some of them I felt like didn't need to be there, and they were just added to make up the numbers. I also had a problem, and problem is not the best word, but in Act 2, and if you've watched my Nervous Guide previously, you will know that I talked about this here in a way, but in Act 2 there is the offstage portrayal, if you will, of a suicide. This suicide is very sad, as should be expected, and then just as the unconscious slash dead body of a character that you've grown to love through this entire show is carried off the stage and everyone is somber in that mood, the beginning of the final countdown starts, and I was just like, have you literally put the final countdown on just after a suicide? I felt just like slightly about it. I mean, I know we need to finish off the story, and that's happened and everyone is aware that's happened, we've seen it happen on the stage, and we need to portray that we are now nearing the end of the training, etc. But it just felt a bit jarring to have this thing that's happened, this really harrowing and emotional thing happen, and then someone just starts playing the final countdown. For me, I feel like this show could have just been slightly shorter, and maybe one or two of the songs could have been either shortened or taken out. The action and everything you watch on stage is enjoyable. It is for the most part fun, and when that final scene is about to start and the music starts to hit for Love Lifts Us Up Where We Belong, and everyone's like, okay, I think the audience that I was part of was so ready for that moment that I think about 3 or 4 places around me I heard someone mutter like, this is it. I have to say it wasn't my favourite or most favourite show of the year. Obviously at the end of this year I will be doing my normal here is all my programmes roundup of the year, and I'm happy that I saw this show, and if you are thinking about seeing it, then by all means, if you want a fun night out and you have seen the show, or if you've seen the film previously, then by all means go and check it out. But for me, just certain things kind of caught me off guard. But hey, not everyone is going to enjoy the same shows, and this just wasn't one of my favourites. But there we are. I'm going to leave this video here and say thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and all that's left to say is the usual, and that is that I love you all lots, and that's then finally so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye. Bye.